you escaped week 3 without any significant injuries to your fantasy football roster, you might be a witch. I need to collect a hair sample. I need to study you in a lab. Holy shit, man. It was an absolute bloodbath, dude. Let's talk about week 3. Let's talk about the panic meter, injuries. We'll do rest of season outlook for some of the players. Just kind of recap what happened and review what happened. So let's start at the top here, man. We're going to do the Miami-Buffalo game back on Thursday night. Josh Allen had himself a really good game, but for fantasy purposes, only 23 fantasy points, a little bit to be desired there. He played great, right? He just didn't have that fantasy day. He didn't get a rushing touchdown, not a lot on the ground, only 4 for 25. James Cook kind of stole the show, had an amazing run, just cemented himself even further as a top 5 running back, in my opinion. Like, let me ask you guys, man, who would you rather have rest this season? Like James Cook or Bucky Irving, James Cook or Saquon Barkley? Like, to me, there's a debate to be had there. Like, I think James Cook is like a top 5 guy rest this season. Dwayne Achane continues his PPR scam. He goes 7 for 9 for 29 yards. He's fine. He's going to be fine rest of the season. They just dump it off him so much. Ollie Gordon does vulture a touchdown, so you don't love to see that as an Achane owner, but he was able to produce when he was working alongside Mostert, so he could still be fine. And then, wide receivers for the Bills, you don't really feel confident starting anyone any given week because you just never know. Shakir tends to play better against zone coverage. And then Tyreek Hill and Waddle both get home in this game. You're happy to start both and then get a touchdown out of both. The yardage is just not there at the moment, man. 49 yards, 39 yards. They both get a touchdown to kind of save their day. But this is just a Miami Dolphins team that wants to just dink and dunk. They're not really throwing deep very much. There's not these big chunk plays, which is unfortunate, man, because Waddle and Tyreek, at one point earlier, right, they were like these big time guys. And then Kincaid shows up yet again for another touchdown. I think he's like tight end 1 on the season at the moment. Hunter Henry might have passed him this past weekend. But yeah, Dalton Kincaid has been legit, man. Like, at the end of the day, he's on a good team. He's got a great quarterback. They score a lot of points. You could do a lot worse than him. Let's move along now to Carolina, Atlanta. This was a very weird game, an absolute domination by Carolina. I did not see it coming. There is a fucking play where Michael Penix throws a pick, and on the return, he's like rolling around the field looking like Bambi. He's like trying to tackle. He falls. He's like reaching for like a shoelace tackle. It's just it was an absolute brutal showing of Michael Penix. There's definitely some ick being had. A lot of red flags, man. So yeah, Bryce Young doesn't really do much, doesn't have to do much. They really leaned on the run. I don't love that Rico Dowdle went 10 for 30 and then gets a goal line run when Chuba Hubbard goes down at the 1 yard line. That was absolutely brutal. I have Chuba, and it was just brutal to see Chuba go down at the 1 yard line, and then Dowdle comes in to vulture it. You hate to see it. They were up by like 21 points already, so that could be why it happened. I wouldn't sound the alarm too much on Chuba. He did have really good usage. He had 19 total opportunities, or I'm sorry, he had 20 total opportunities. Bijan Robinson was fine, but it was a tough game and a tough game script. He kind of saves your day from a PPR standpoint. Goes 5 for 6 for 39. I thought this was going to be a Drake London game because he typically performs pretty well against zone. While he did outproduce Mooney, it was Mooney that did get the 11 targets. So it was just a weird game, man. Like, Michael Penix looked frazzled the whole game, which is not something you want to see against a Panthers defense, right? They're not necessarily world beaters when it comes to their defense. And then Tedero McMillan set up for a lot of success in this game. I thought he was going to be really good against this Atlanta Falcons defense that was missing AJ Terrell, but he ends up not doing much, man. He had some big time plays and he looked good, but the volume was not there in this game. I recommended someone to start Hunter Renfrow, and that turned out really bad. Now we move on to some of the more exciting games. We got Green Bay, Cleveland. What a fucking crazy game. We had an upset here. Jordan Love just didn't look really sharp the entire game. Only throws a touchdown, throws a pick as well. Joe Flacco somehow leads them to a victory, but this was really the Quinchon Judkins show-up game. He goes 16 fantasy points, 16 for 94 and a touchdown. Absolutely great game by Judkins. Shows everyone that he has a lot of potential. And this is an offense and a defense in terms of the Cleveland Browns that are really good, man. They have a really good defense, and we saw it yet again. Bro, this team held Jamar Chase, T. Higgins to like 2 points each. They did decent against the Ravens for as long as they could, and then the Ravens ended up blowing them out in like the fourth quarter. And then look what they just did to the Packers, man, when they won. This Cleveland Browns team is a quarterback away from being a legit contending team, and I feel like they got to go to one of their young guys at some point. But either way, Josh Jacobs off of volume. He does get 9 targets. What else? Judkins plays quite a lot of third downs, which you don't love to see as a Judkins owner. Like, the thing that's holding Judkins back from being like a top 10 guy is he doesn't get a lot of receiving work, and he's obviously on like kind of a bad offense. But moving forward, if you have Judkins, you're really happy, you're really excited to have him as like an RB2 rest of the season, and you're gonna be confident starting him. I think obviously in any matchup, right? Even against Green Bay, he still gets home. Now he benefited from a pass interference in the end zone, which I even said before the game, like, if you have Judkins, you're hoping for a PI so that he's on the 1 yard line. And it happened twice in the game, and he gets a touchdown only the second time. So Tillman doesn't do much. Judy, he's bad. He's probably, I don't want to say droppable, but I don't think you can probably start him until there's a quarterback change. Matthew Golden, guys, he finally shows up. He goes 4 for 4 for 52 yards. He gets 3 carries for only 9 yards. Now, we love 7 opportunities. In an offense like this that spreads the ball, 7 opportunities is like a high volume player, right? So he almost, honestly, there was a play where he gets like an over the shoulder 37-yard pass, and he runs out of bounds. And I was on Twitter, and everyone was saying he could have probably housed that. Like the defender had a bad angle, and he just like angles himself out of bounds. It was kind of a bad pass where he kind of had to lean out of bounds. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Could he have housed that? When I was looking at the replay, it kind of seemed like he could have probably housed that. But yeah, this is just a game where Njoku kind of he outplays Fannin, but Fannin was on the field a lot more, if that makes sense. So Tucker Kraft, he was dealing with the injury, so he didn't really do much. Let's move this along. Let's speed this up a little bit. Trevor Lawrence, up and down game, 50% completion percentage is not going to get it done. Only 8 fantasy points. CJ Stroud, also dog shit. I thought this could be a shootout, but this game was fucking horrible to watch. Travis Etienne gets a free touchdown where they just let him score at the end, but Bashal Toon gets the early touchdown. This is going to potentially be a nasty committee moving forward, where it's going to be Toon and Etienne. I don't know if you're going to be super confident starting either one, if they're going to be in games like this where their offense is struggling so much. Nick Chubb doesn't do much. Woody Marks eats even more into the workload. I told you guys to go pick up Woody Marks weeks ago. I've been saying to stash him. I do think he's going to have more of a workload moving forward. He's the pass catching running back on this team. Then we have Nico Collins, man, kind of gets lucky, gets a deep touchdown where he just gets left open. I don't understand why you wouldn't be double covering the one good wide receiver, but Nico gets home finally, but you're not feeling too good about it. You love the 11 targets though. Definitely you want to chase volume. Brian Thomas, he might be cooked. 2 for 6, 55 yards, saves his day with like a 46-yard reception at the end of the game in garbage time. Otherwise, he was bad. Parker Washington was better, but he himself only went 4 for 11. Christian Kirk, first game back, gets 8 targets, so that's a little bit optimistic for him. So maybe he can end up helping us out in the future as like a deep flex play, but for the most part, you're not really confident starting any wide receivers for the Jags. I mean, Travis Hunter, they don't really know what to do with him, how to use him. He's kind of he's essentially unusable, right? You can't really start Travis Hunter. Brenton Strange actually shows up 6 for 7 for 61 yards. I'm not just super excited about him. He's just not like a core guy on this team. He's not like a priority player that they go to. And then for the Texans, yeah, it's really just Nico, Schultz if you're down horrendous. But moving along now, Jake Browning, he's not it. He's not going to get it done. Jamar Chase struggled. T. Higgins struggled. Chase Brown struggled. Noah Fant got lit the fuck up, dude. That shit was hilarious. Noah Fant gets like a 3-yard out route, gets stripped, turns around, and gets fucking blasted, dude. That shit was so funny. Like, Hawkinson gets home, gets a touchdown late in the game. Oliver gets a touchdown as well early. Jefferson doesn't do much because they don't really need to. Naylor also doesn't do much. They don't really need to. Jordan Mason is probably an every week start from now on. But the problem with Jordan Mason is that they have a really tough schedule coming up. Let's have a quick look at it. They play against Pittsburgh, Cleveland. So Pittsburgh might be another good game. Then Cleveland, which is tough to run on. Then a bye week. Then Philadelphia, Chargers, Detroit, Baltimore. That is a brutal slate of games coming up. I think other than the Pittsburgh game, you're feeling real good about them, right? And then there's a bye week stuck in there. And then maybe Aaron Jones is back in week 9, right? Like Aaron Jones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he'd be back in week 8, Aaron Jones, because I think the bye week doesn't count if I remember. So yeah, man. I mean, on the other side of the ball, you're not happy starting Chase. You're not happy starting Higgins anymore. We need to see something different. I think Chase is going to get home off of volume, but what is he? Top 15? Borderline? Maybe not even in the top 15. Like, I don't know. There has to be a QB change, or the offensive line has to be better, because I think Jake Browning is serviceable. I just think the offensive line was so bad, and the Vikings are a really good defense, a really tough team to actually produce on for a team like Cincinnati who doesn't have an O-line. It's just not going to work, man. You're just not going to be able to produce if you don't have protection, because This defense is very creative. They know how to get pressure. They know how to defend down the field as well. So Chase Brown, he's also kind of like 15 opportunities, but only 3 yards, and then 17 through the air, 4 catches. Like, you're not feeling too good about that, man. We're down horrendous at the moment if you're a Bengals owner. There's a couple of best ball leagues where I built my teams around the Bengals, and those are done. Those are finished. Like, finito. Higgins is unstartable as well. Like, we need to see something different. I mean, what's their schedule coming up? Let's have a look. Yeah, I mean, they're playing Denver next week. Holy fuck, dude. Jamar Chase is going to have another like 3-point performance. Detroit after that opens up a little, but Green Bay is difficult. Pittsburgh, New York Jets, Chicago. It lightens up a little bit after that Green Bay week 5 game. And then the rest of the season is kind of clear skies for the most part. I mean, Baltimore is not really a secondary we're scared of. Buffalo, also not a secondary you're scared of. It's kind of clear skies after this little stretch. And maybe they figure it out by then, right? Maybe they figure out the offense. They figure out what they got to do. But I think you're probably trying to not start T. Higgins if you don't have to. And then let's move on now to the Pittsburgh New England Patriots. This was another game where Drake May has a pretty decent game from a fantasy perspective. He adds 45 yards on the ground. He goes 28 of 37 for 268 and 2 touchdowns. Does throw a pick. This game, I mean, the crux of this game, or the gist of this game, was that everyone was fucking fumbling, dude. Ramondre had 2 fumbles. Gibson had a fumble. Trevion Henderson comes in and just looks unspectacular. It's just a brutal team. None of the wide receivers do anything either. I had some expectations that Kayshon Boutte could be good in this game, but the Steelers were just essentially swarming the Patriots. They couldn't really do much offensively. So I think this is a game you just throw out the window. And I think if you're a Steelers owner, Jaylen Warren had fantastic, phenomenal usage. He had like 26 or 24 total opportunities. He loses a goal line snap to Kenneth Gainwell, so that's not great, but he's trusted. Aaron Rodgers loves him. He said we need to get him more involved, and he was. He played like 80% plus snaps. Jaylen Warren is legitimately like probably one of the best values in all of fantasy football. If you have him, you're feeling super good. If there's a quarterback change, there's a chance they move away from Jaylen Warren. Maybe they move toward Caleb Johnson if they start losing games. I'm kind of hoping they start losing games so that Caleb maybe sees the field, because I fucking drafted this man. He's essentially droppable at this point. He's not seeing the field. He's not even returning kickoffs anymore. He's getting 0 offensive snaps. He's cooked. And most of us drafted him in like the 5th, 6th round. That was an absolute waste of a draft pick. And he's probably draftable, man. DK Metcalf, only 4 targets. Calvin Austin out-targeted him. There's just such a funneling of targets on this offense where they just want to run the ball, throw it to their running backs, and the wide receivers just aren't doing enough for you to feel good about them. And then Hunter Henry obviously fucking dominates. He goes 8 for 11 for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. I said in the live stream Sunday morning, I said, Hunter Henry is the definition of, he's Jeepers Creepers, bro. He lays dormant, sleeping many seasons, and then a young group of college students come into town, and it's time for him to wake up and feast. And you never expect it. You never know when it's going to happen. But Hunter Henry just emerges from his fucking dormancy and feasts on some unsuspecting secondary, man. He goes 8 for 11, 2 touchdowns. It was just like short passes, quick passes to him down the middle every single time. He was basically in the Michael Thomas role. So you're not going to feel comfortable starting him any given week. But that's just kind of what happened in the last game. Rams, Philly, I don't really want to fucking talk about this game because it's just going to make me mad. My blood pressure's already starting to spike. The Rams were winning this game handily. They were getting Puka involved, Adams involved, Kyron was involved, Corum was involved, everyone was involved. The Eagles were bad. Jalen Hurts was barely doing shit. The run game wasn't working. The Rams were absolutely suffocating them. They were up like 26-7 at one point. And then the Rams just decide every time they're in the red zone, throw it to Davante Adams. Unsuccessful. Every single fucking time. Puka Nacua got 0 red zone targets, I think. I have to look back at the tape. I don't understand why the Rams refused to pass the ball to Puka Nacua in the red zone. Is he trash? Is he not able to win contested catches? I don't know. But we are just feeding Davante Adams in the red zone. If you own Davante Adams, you feel good about that because they're just going to continue feeding him. He's going to get like fucking 4 end zone targets every single game. And Puka Nacua is kind of just like the between the 20s scam. So he's just going to get us like 20 fantasy points a game with no touchdowns. It's absolutely tilting because he can be like a 40-point fan. He can be like a Jamar Chase type of producer any given week if he just got end zone looks. You're happy if you started Hurts. You're sad if you started Barkley. Better days will be ahead. This Rams defense is very good, but they finally take the training wheels off of Hurts. They let him pass it, and we see that A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith both get home here, man. 6 for 109 and a touchdown. Some massive catches for A.J. Brown. After the catch, he was absolutely phenomenal. It was a vintage A.J. Brown game where he reminded everyone, man, of how good he is and how potent this offense can be if they actually threw the ball. This is a game where you were actually kind of excited to watch it because it's like, all right, let's see what happens when the Eagles are playing from behind. Devonta Smith also gets home. He gets a late touchdown there to kind of save the day, but you love it, man. 8 for 9 for 60 yards and a touchdown. Catches almost everything that goes his way. Dallas Goedert even pops up for 1 catch for a touchdown. So if you started him, you're feeling good. And then we got Jets, Tampa Bay. This one is actually a tight game. I feel like I was watching Red Zone, and then all of a sudden I look up and I see that this is like a 1-possession game. I think the Buccaneers were about to go up 2 possessions, and then the Jets get a field goal block for a return touchdown. And then it's like a game, right? It's Baker has to come in now to lead the offense down. He leads them down, and they get a field goal to win it, I believe, at the end of the game. Mike Evans goes out with a brutal hamstring injury. It did not look good. He couldn't really walk to the locker room. So Mike Evans might be out, man. And then we got Chris Godwin coming back potentially next week. Emeka Egbuka is probably going to be a league winner rest of the season. He's going to be probably the number 1 guy for this offense moving forward. Sterling Shepard pops up for 4 for 5 for 80 yards, but he's about 93 years old, give or take 28 years. Tyrod Taylor honed the fuck in on Garrett Wilson. He's the only one who really did much in this game. Allen Lazard pops up for a random touchdown. Garrett Wilson he's a phenomenal talent, man. And if he has a quarterback that's willing to hone in on him and just feed him, he can have these 20-point fantasy days. I just don't know if he has like a higher ceiling than that. I don't know if he has like 30 fantasy points like an Amon-Ra St. Brown or like a fucking Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow, right? So then we move on to the Colts Titans, another game where they essentially just dominate. Cam Ward doesn't look very good. Daniel Jones looks fine, does what he has to do. Doesn't have a big fantasy day, but this was Jonathan Taylor just getting 3 touchdowns. That was kind of the tail of the tape. Tony Pollard yet again dominates touches. 20 total opportunities, 16 for 45 and a touchdown, and then 2 for 4 and 14 yards. He would have actually had a way worse day, but a touchdown gets overturned, and then he gets the next goal line touch, and then he punches it in for a touchdown. So I think I wouldn't be too excited to have a guy like Pollard. He has so much volume and so much opportunity, but look at his ceiling, man. His ceiling is about 13 fantasy points. Michael Pittman shows up yet again. Josh Downs has a nice first drive and then disappears to be never heard from again. He is a true Milford man, neither seen nor heard. Michael Pittman pops up 6 for 6, 73 yards and a touchdown. Alec Pierce has every game he has like 2 or 3 big deep bombs that he just mosses someone and then gets like a concussion instantly. Alec Ayamanor, the only startable wide receiver it seems for the Titans. Calvin Ridley is just 1 for 7 for 27 yards. Ayamanor is trusted. He's solid. He gets touchdowns. He gets end zone looks. He's like the only guy you can probably start now moving forward for the Titans. Chico Okonkwo, a nice little game, 5 for 6 for 66 yards. Warren for the Colts unfortunately doesn't do much. They throw him a lot of screens. They throw him a lot of close to the line of scrimmage stuff. And if he's not busting them for like 20-yard chunk gains, he's not going to have a really good fantasy day, right? So he just wasn't busting them this game. But I do think you're confident with him moving forward. Now I move on to this game, which I didn't really see much of it, to be honest. But Washington was essentially just dominating the whole game. Geno Smith was kind of playing from behind most of the game. That's why he actually gets home from a fantasy perspective. 26 fantasy points. That's pretty solid for Geno Smith. Jeremy McNichols had a very interesting touchdown. He gets like an accidental handoff, goes for 70 yards, like breaks like 3 tackles, goes 70 yards for a touchdown. Genty, volume, but really no production. 17 for 63, literally no targets, no receptions, nothing else with that. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is kind of stuck in a committee at the moment. I knew this would happen. The game started and it was Rodriguez out the gate as the starter. Merritt gets the touchdown though, so like I said, man, this is going to be a committee. I don't think you're going to be confident starting anyone. Wide receivers for the Commanders, no one really does much. They don't really have to do much most of the game. Terry McLaurin almost gets a deep bomb touchdown, but he's down at the 1-yard line. Tre Tucker, what the actual fuck? 8 for 9 for 3 touchdowns and 145 yards. Some of it happened in trash time, but a lot of it didn't. Jacoby Myers, I said before the game that the Commanders play heavy man, and Jacoby Myers is kind of the zone beater. He's the guy that plays really well against zone coverage. So this is a fucking Tre Tucker game, man. Is this going to be a sign of things to come? I wouldn't bet too much on it. At the end of the day, this was one of those games where they're just playing from behind. Maybe the Commanders defense started to let up as they knew they had the game in hand. So I wouldn't go after him on the waiver wire too hard. Brock Bowers probably kind of a bust in fantasy football. I mean, he was a 2nd-round pick and he's yet to score a touchdown. You love the volume. You love him in a tight end premium league where he's helping you, but he's kind of has replaceable level production from the tight end position. I mean, you're probably happier with Juwan Johnson at this point, right? He's getting like 9 targets a game, and in a tight end premium, he's probably outscoring Brock Bowers. So I don't know how happy you are with Brock, but you're going to have to keep starting him, right? Zach Ertz doesn't really do much in this game, doesn't have to. All right, next we got Denver, Los Angeles. This was a defensive slugfest. Both quarterbacks getting pressured the entire game. Justin Herbert pulls this one out in the end. Bo Nix kind of really struggles. Seems like I don't really know what Bo Nix's issue is with this offense. It seems like they're not really letting him do any like traditional 3-step dropbacks. Everything is like some weird like rollout to the right or rollout to the left with like a weird gadget play. I don't know, man. He just doesn't seem like a traditional quarterback, and because of that, there's not a lot of easy throws that he seems to be allowed to do. It's weird, man. It's a weird offense. I don't really know what to think of it. J.K. Dobbins gets home yet again, dude. Another week in a row with J.K. Dobbins getting a touchdown and, you know, being just a solid, good top 10 running back, man. Like he's good for 13 fantasy points every game. You're happy with him. Hampton. All right, big news here. Najee Harris, probably Achilles tear. I think it was confirmed overnight. Marvin Hampton steps into a massive role, dude, and he's going to probably continue this role permanently rest of season. 19 carries for only 70 yards, so he's not very efficient with his carries, but 7 fucking targets, man. 6 receptions for 59 yards. I mean, if he's going to get this type of workload, we're talking about 26 total opportunities. This is Christian McCaffrey level workload on a good offense, on a 3-0 team with a very competent quarterback who's probably an MVP candidate with Greg Roman, who wants to run the ball. They just haven't really been able to thus far. Holy shit, Omarion Hampton, if you stuck with him and you stuck with the rookie and you didn't panic, you didn't trade him away, you are feeling fucking fantastic right now. Unfortunately, at the expense of Najee Harris, but RJ Harvey on the other side doesn't really do much. Tale of two opposite ends of the spectrum. Hampton and Harvey are going in opposite directions. And then Courtland Sutton, as I said before the game, pregame, Courtland Sutton was going to show up and he was going to retake over this wide receiver room. He goes 6 for 8 for 118 and a touchdown, almost gets a second touchdown. Keenan Allen, who I was saying to fade before the game, was really doing fuck all the whole game. He had like 5 catches for like 40 yards the entire game. And at the very end, he gets like a deep touchdown. And then he gets another big time catch in, you know, at the end of the game on that last drive. Ends up 17 fantasy points, 7 for 65 and a touchdown. I guess it's never over till it's over. I was almost right on it, but it's all good. Quinchon Judkins, guys, I will say rest of season is like a top 24 wide receiver. He is so trusted by Justin Herbert. If you have Ladd McConkey right now, I would legitimately trade him straight up for Quinchon Judkins. I know that sounds crazy, but we now have 3 weeks of data. Quinchon Judkins is the guy that Herbert trusts down the field. He's the explosive guy. He gets the big plays. He gets end zone looks. He doesn't have a drops issue anymore, really. Like, he's just better than McConkey on this offense. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry if you drafted McConkey in the second round, but that's just how it is. McConkey, unfortunately, his ceiling was what we saw last year. Keenan Allen, he is the Grim Reaper of value. As soon as he comes, he just sucks the value out of young players. He did it to Odunze last year. He's doing it to McConkey this year. He's probably going to do it next year on another team. Troy Franklin, what the fuck? I dropped like 20 fab on him, and he ends up 2 for 4 for 8 yards. He gets an end zone target where he drops it. He gets like a nice, it would have been like a 25-yard chunk play, and he drops that as well. Absolutely brutal, dude. This is a Sean Payton special. As soon as he shows you somebody who's looking like a productive player, he'll fucking switch it up the very next week. And we saw it, and it sucks. Tight ends, Gadsden, actually sneakily involved, but you're not really comfortable starting him. And then this game, dude, we don't even need to really talk. Sam Darnold looked really, really, really sharp in this game. He looked really good. Didn't have to do much. Kenneth Walker gets 2 touchdowns. Not a lot of production with it, but you're happy with the 2 touchdowns, obviously. Alvin Kamara, he's always been a scam the last like 3 seasons. He's not really the same Kamara he used to be from that like 7 touchdown in 1 game season, but he's still decently involved, right? I mean, you know, 19 total opportunities, but he's getting low value opportunities, man. Only 1 catch for 14 yards, and it was like a fucking shovel pass. It wasn't even really like a manufactured touch for him. So you're feeling real bad if you have Kamara this season. I just think the offense is so bad. Rattler doesn't really check it down to him very often. Olave scam, dude, 14 targets yet again, but only 10 for 57. He is somebody that if you are looking to buy someone low, I would buy Olave pretty low because I don't think he's going to be seeing a secondary like the Seahawks very often. Buffalo, New York, New England, Chicago, Tampa Bay. Yeah, I mean, his schedule kind of clears up slightly. I mean, there's a couple of tough games in there, but he's someone that he's just so heavily targeted. I mean, he's got no less than 10 targets in any game, and he has 13 and 14 in week 1 and 2. So Olave is kind of like a hidden volume merchant, right? Like he hasn't been over 60 receiving yards yet, so maybe that's kind of a red flag. But if we're chasing volume in fantasy, I think you can do worse. Jackson Smith-Njigba could have had like a 50-point fantasy day if he was actually needed for more of the game, but not, 5 of 6 for 96 yards and a touchdown. Phenomenal. One of the better draft picks in all of fantasy football. If you drafted him in the 3rd round or later, you're currently holding a top 12 wide receiver easily. So Jackson Smith-Njigba, one of the better wide receivers. I mean, he's having Puka Nacua type production, but he gets end zone targets. So take from that what you will, man. If you can make a trade where you can maybe get JSN and you only give up, if you can get JSN tomorrow for Jamar Chase, I do that trade and I don't look back, man. And then Torrey Horton pops up for a special teams touchdown and a normal touchdown. Cooper Kupp takes a back seat. Juwan Johnson has a nice high volume game yet again, 6 of 8 for 51. All right, man. Then we got Dallas, Chicago. This was the Caleb Williams statement game against a bad defense, to be fair, but 4 touchdowns, looked sharp most of the game, has some weird plays. There was one play where it was like a 3-yard pass and he throws it into the dirt. I don't know how this type of shit happens with Caleb. He's usually really accurate. He can throw absolute ropes all around the field. But when it comes to like your short, like easy passes, sometimes he just looks like absolute cat shit. So I don't really know what Caleb Williams, I don't really know what to think of him. We had a debate in the live stream of whether he's a bust, whether he's good, whether the team will move on from him. I am firmly in the position. I think he's special. I think he's generational. And he kind of showed it a little, right? He showed glimpses of it. DeAndre Swift breaks off like a big 45-yard run to kind of save his day. Otherwise, he was really inefficient yet again. Monangai gets 6 carries. That's something to look out for. Javonte Williams looked absolutely fantastic and phenomenal up until he fumbled. He was fucking busting people's asses, dude. Like, cornerbacks are coming up on him to try to tackle him. He was just lowering the boom on them. There was one play where he lowers the boom on a Bears corner, and I think he died. I didn't see, like, the camera pans away from the the camera pans away from the Chicago Bears player, but he looked dead to me, dude. He was just on the floor lifeless, and Javonte Williams was staring over him, dude, like a fucking just menacingly staring over him and standing above him. So I'm obviously joking. But yeah, he was just lowering the boom, fumbles, and then Sanders sees quite a lot of work, actually. He gets himself 12 opportunities behind him, and that's in a losing game, right? So, and then this one is brutal, man. If you are a CeeDee Lamb owner, look away. He gets a absolutely brutal looking ankle injury. It bends like inward, if that makes sense. So usually when you roll your ankle, you'll roll it like outward. His bends inward. A lot of people are saying it's high ankle sprain. Which could be not only a like multi-week absence, like an IR stint, but it could also linger the rest of the season. A lot of running backs, wide receivers who do get this injury, they just don't look the same the rest of the season. Sometimes even the next season, it's still kind of lingering at the beginning. So we're hoping to see some better news. But if we get bad news, it's going to be Pickens doing most of the damage for this team. And then one of Turpin or Tolbert any given week could show up. Then on the other side of the ball, Luther Burden pops up. He gets a 65-yard like flea flicker touchdown pass. Just the fact that they're drawing up plays for Burden, they're trying to get him more involved. You love to see it. For the second half breakout for Luther Burden, we're going to need a couple things to happen. We're going to need DJ Moore to get traded. We're going to need maybe Zacchaeus to maybe get faded away or to start to get replaced by Burden leading up to it. We're going to need a couple things. It's going to be a tough offense to trust because you know that Odunze is kind of like the bona fide number 1 guy. But there's a lot of opportunity behind him if DJ Moore was gone. But with DJ Moore, we saw that like the last real drive of the game, they were really getting DJ Moore involved. That was like a DJ Moore drive. He gets a lot of his fantasy production essentially on one drive. And, you know, the first drive was the Odunze drive. The second drive was the Burden drive. And if that's going to be how this offense is going to operate, we're not going to feel super confident about starting anyone outside of Odunze. Even with Burden getting these big explosives, right? Like Burden could end up being the Jameson Williams on this team, on this Ben Johnson team. And then you're happy and you're excited starting. But at the moment, DJ Moore's role is just weird. He kind of throws a wrench in everything. So Ferguson is like a top 5 tight end. He's just so heavily targeted. He gets 14 fucking targets, 13 for 82. Unfortunately, it's all like underneath stuff. He's kind of like the check down guy for this team. And, you know, if you're in a tight end premium, he's going to be one of the best tight ends in fantasy football. Now we talk about Arizona, San Francisco. I don't even really want to talk about this game, man. I'm just so fucking tired of Christian McCaffrey. Look, man, I know I sound like a salty pussy right now, but I'm not impressed by CMC. He's getting like 30 plus touches. I mean, for fuck's sakes, man, 15 targets, 10 receptions for 88. That's inefficient. 17 carries for 52 yards. That's super inefficient. That's 3 yards per carry. Look, if you gave any single player, if you gave fucking Tyrone Tracy 30 touches, he'd get you 20 fantasy points. This dude is just a scam. And I'm just kind of tired of seeing him, to be honest. Like, I'm done with CMC being so dominant and getting 40 fucking touches a game. Like, can we please give that type of opportunity to any other player who's like younger and more explosive, like a fucking James Cook or something? I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just ranting, maybe I'm rambling, but James Conner, season-ending injury, he's out. Hopefully you picked up Trey Benson. We thank you for your service, James Conner. You were one of the more underrated, better running backs, but unfortunately, it was an absolute brutal injury. Don't look it up if you don't have a strong stomach. Mac Jones does enough, right, to get the win. All right, man. And then when it comes to the wide receivers, Ricky Pearsall, Big Dick Ricky, Sticky Ricky, he is goated. He's one of the better wide receivers in the NFL already in only his second season. He makes incredible catches, dude, left and right. Just pound for pound, he's a very talented wide receiver. Unfortunately, it's just like we need to see some touchdowns at some point. He has 0 touchdowns on the season. So once he starts getting into the end zone, this dude is kind of like baby Puka Nacua at the moment, except he actually gets like deep bombs thrown his way. So Marvin Harrison Jr., this was supposed to be a game that he can maybe be successful against heavy zone coverage. He was trash. He had some really bad, I think he had one really bad drop, and he's just unspectacular, man. There's literally nothing special about Marvin Harrison when you watch him on the field. I'm sorry if you have him in Dynasty or if you drafted him this season. He's just a complete bust, man. Like, he's not his dad, dude. I don't know why he was so hyped coming out of college. It just makes no sense to me. He is a bust, dude. I think we have to just say it. Trey McBride randomly gets a touchdown. Like, I guess it's okay. I guess he's allowed to get touchdowns, so that's great. And then we end this, guys. My mouth is dry as shit with Kansas City, New York. Also another brutal game to watch. Kansas City does not have a run game. They have no interest in having a run game. Kareem Hunt and Pacheco each get 10 carries for only 34 and 45 yards. Kareem Hunt gets the touchdown per usual. He gets the goal line work. Cam Skattebo. All right, so the tail of this game was probably that Tyrone Tracy gets injured. It looked like a shoulder dislocation or some type of brutal shoulder injury. He knew right away, he was pointing at it. And Cam Skattebo comes in and probably has one of the better games against the Chiefs defense that I've seen a running back have. 10 for 60 and a touchdown. Just absolutely like finagles his way into the end zone early in the game. And then he gets 8 targets, bro. 6 for 61 through the air. I mean, if Tracy's out for any extended period of time, Cameron Skattebo is going to be a league-winning player. I told you guys to go out and try to trade for him last week because I saw the tea leaves. Like, forget the injury. I just saw the tea leaves of them getting him more involved. The first drive of the game, Tyrone Tracy was actually, I thought he was going to take a back seat, but he didn't. So let's see what happens with the shoulder, man. At the moment, we don't have a lot of news, I believe. Yeah, out for the remainder. They don't really know what it is or why he was out. And it was really just the Skattebo show. Devin Singletary got a couple of carries, which he did nothing with. Looking at the wide receivers, man, Tyquan Thornton, dude, actually pretty involved. Same with Juju Smith. He's actually made some nice plays. Hollywood Brown, he was a scam after week 1. Like, hopefully you sold him high after week 1 because he's just kind of a dude. He's not really that special. Tyquan Thornton got a couple of deep bombs. He actually pulls in the harder one and he drops the easier one. Gets a touchdown shortly after that. So you're not really confident starting anyone, I think, for the Chiefs. The Chiefs are just a weird team, man. And listen, dude, I'm going to be the first person to say it. Pat Mahomes does not look like himself. He does not look like the same accurate QB he used to be. I'm not going to say he's overrated, but I mean, we're seeing a dude who's missing a lot of throws, right? He doesn't throw any picks in this game, but he could have thrown some picks, dude. He was missing his players. He was laying like ducks out to dry where the ball was just hanging in the air for so long. And I don't know, man, it was just a strange year right now for Pat Mahomes where he's still kind of doing stuff on the ground, not so much in this game, but he's still his same slippery self. He can still make some big time throws, but I don't know, there's something lacking from his accuracy. Maybe you guys agree. Maybe you guys are, watching a lot closer than I am, but that's essentially the tale. Malik Neighbors, just a weird game, doesn't really do much. Russell Wilson had a tough game, couldn't really get a lot of time to throw. No one really gets home, none of the wide receivers. So this is just the Skattebo show up game. Other than that, a brutal game to watch. No tight ends really did anything. All right, man, my mouth is dry. That does it for the week 3 reactions. We're not going to cover, obviously, tonight's game, but this could probably be the game of the week. We had Detroit-Baltimore. Just to give you my quick preview of this game, you're probably just starting everyone. You're starting Lamar Jackson. Maybe you're trying not to start Goff, but maybe you had to. You're starting Gibbs, you're starting Henry, you're starting David Montgomery. You're excited about Zay Flowers and what he could do this week. I think DeAndre Hopkins maybe gets a touchdown. because the Detroit Lions play quite a lot of man defense, and DeAndre Hopkins is really good against man. St. Brown, Jameson Williams should be fine in this game. I think this could be a high-scoring game. And that does, man. I hope you guys like this video. Stay tuned tomorrow. We're going to be doing the waiver wire video. There's a lot of waiver wire names, so make sure you guys like, subscribe, hit the bell so that you do catch that waiver wire video as it comes out tomorrow. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.